It's harvest time on Simon Tickner's property at Warwicknabeal in Victoria's Wimmera region. And for Simon, that means long days, little rest and plenty of time in the cab. After spring rain, he's now reaping the rewards.
We've still got a good couple of weeks to go, so we're still at risk from weather, but if we can get this into silo, it'll be a really good outcome.
The Tickners have been farming here for almost 60 years, and they've been planting barley for as long as Simon can remember.
Looks pretty good to me.
Usually devoting a quarter of their winter cropping fields to the cereal.
It's really rewarding to put something in the ground, see it grow and know that you're feeding the world and to make a living out of it.
Since 2010, China has been Australia's biggest barley customer. Over the last 5 years, China accounted for 58% of all exports. That's a long way ahead of our second biggest customer, Japan, which on average made up just 15% of barley exported from Australia. Saudi Arabia and Thailand each came in at 5%. Other Asian countries made up the balance.
When you're selling a product, you tend to sell it to the highest paying person, and that has been China.
Pat O'Shaughnessy is the CEO of industry group Grain Trade Australia.
We've worked in the grains industry with China since the late 60s in developing a lot of these barley varieties specifically for their markets.
That relationship has taken a turn in recent years. In 2016, a record-breaking Australian grain crop hit the world market, sending prices tumbling. In late 2018, Beijing accused us of dumping the barley, a claim the industry here strongly denies. Relations hit a new low when the federal government called for an independent inquiry into the origins of COVID-19 in April. The next month, China slapped 80% tariffs on Australian barley.
I must admit the first reaction was, wow, that's a big tariff.
Most growers in Australia had already made their planting decisions by the time China announced how hard they were going with tariffs.
Exporters rattled barley prices plummeted across the country overnight by around 22 to 25%. The grain industry estimates farmers will lose $2.5 billion over the next 5 years due to the tariffs. It's not just China toying with the Aussie barley market. After years of crippling drought sending prices higher, Australian farmers are on track to pull off a near record crop at 12 million tonne. The bumper crop placing downward pressure on prices.
Geelong's a good example. Throughout 2019, prices were around about $350 a tonne. And if we look now, they're probably around about $230 a tonne.
That's a massive drop, but Andrew Whitelaw says prices are still quite reasonable given the historically high market. A smaller harvest elsewhere around the globe has also helped drive demand.
It could have been far worse. Events overseas have saved farmers' hides effectively by propping up our prices.
It's first-class, world-class barley. The reality is if China doesn't want it, the rest of the world does.
So where is Australian barley going this season instead? With headers still in crops, it's still too early to know for sure, but Saudi Arabia is shaping up to return as a crucial destination. More grain is already making its way to Vietnam, while record drought in Thailand means it's turning to Australia to help feed hungry livestock too. Incremental growth is also expected in Japan and South Korea.
And so you go from having one or two buyers to you're going to have to actually trade to, potentially 5, 6, 7.
There's hope in developing new markets too. A new trade deal with Indonesia came into effect in July, opening its store for feed barley, while India's growing thirst for beer offers a new opportunity for our malting barley if access issues are resolved. The Australian government plans to take China to the World Trade Organisation, but there's fears that could be a drawn-out uphill battle with little payoff for the grower.
This is the logical and appropriate next step for Australia to take.
What we really want to try and do is untangle the politics from the trade, and there's great prospects going forward with China, I still believe.
As Simon Tickner looks to the future, he remains positive. But as China ramps up its assault on Australian exports, it has fuelled public debate about whether we've become too dependent on the Asian superpower. Do you think Australia has been too reliant on China for too long?
We've been happy to ride the prosperous Chinese wave. We really needed to consider the risk exposure we put ourselves in and probably should have seen this coming.
Also stoking anxiety for Australian exporters is the way Donald Trump settled the United States' own bruising 18-month trade war with China. The two giants struck a deal in January, with Beijing pledging to dramatically step up its purchase of American goods, including boosting agricultural imports by almost 50% on 2017 base levels.
If you want to get $36.5 billion of goods from the US, you're going to stop buying from other places,
leaving Australian industries more vulnerable.
I'd be particularly worried if I was in almonds. Our export of almonds to China increased dramatically during the trade war between the US and China, and they could quite feasibly switch that across to US product.
Andrea Crothers, Sky News.